Diviny, Ron Diviny has a new product out. It's called Ron's Circle Flares. It's a new product out in the Daz store. Let's take a quick look at it and a brief run through on what it is. Circle Flares, we first want to look at what he describes his product as. It says it's PNG format and a size on a transparent background. That means the expectation is that you will have these shapes in isolation, and you can place these on any background or on top of any image that you wish with anything that supports layers. That's what the suggestion is that this product will offer. So we know that we're dealing with pictures. So when we're dealing with a product that's pictures, although it has an installer, we want to take control of where this product downloads and where these files are kept. And we also want to access these files directly. This is considered pretty much a post-work product where you would have your render in Daz and then incorporate this after you've actually rendered. Technically, for those that are a bit more advanced with their usage of Daz, you could create a billboard and use this as a texture and load that onto a flat plane or billboard type prop, and therefore it would be a live asset in your artwork. That's another way to use these products, but for the most part, we're talking about what's on offer is PNG files, which is meant to be used as an image in and of itself. So we'll take a look at that. When I go over here to my product library, I want to use the cloud so I can control where this product downloads. Brings me to my product library, and I see the files that I have. This is if I want to use the Daz Install Manager. This is a straight manual download that will allow me to grab the product and put it where I see fit. It consists of two different files. These two compose the library, and I'm sure it's broken up among this. If I click the down button, the download button, it's going to ask where I want to put it. And where I've chosen to put it is my own backup folder. There's a folder called Ron Diviny where I'll be putting some of his 2020 products in it, and we get that. Let's take a look at the folder itself a little bit closer. We have the folder 1 and 2. You'd be getting these zipped files is what you'd be downloading. And what we did was we right-clicked on them, used any sort of program that can open an archive, and I extracted the files. So when I extracted them both, I have two folders with the different files from that purchase in it. And again, this is not the same thing as dragging and dropping a file or folder onto your runtime library like most manual installs. This is just giving me access directly to the files. And since they're big, I want to choose where to put these myself. So with that, we open up one of the folders. We get a content, general, and we have the actual flares. So we're looking at a preview of the flare. These are the first set. And these would be the images in isolation that you will get. And you see how it has no background. If we go back and take a look at the second package, we'll get this. What I will usually do is grab all of these files. I will grab them. Usually I'll cut them. And I'll put them in the head folder itself. So I'll know that in this one, I'll just place the folders. And in the future, I would probably just combine both folders in one place so I'm not moving around or looking for them. I can see them all together. But that's what I would do to customize my own folder set, is put them all together in one place. But now at least we know what artwork we're looking at. How are they effectively used? We can open up a Photoshop or any program that uses layers that can support a transparency format type file, and we'll have a blank picture. Again, normally these are the kind of things you use to finish, but in a way we have a character here. Let's go over some of the uses. This is a Daz render of a character in isolation. So it's been rendered with the rendering the dome off so that we're not getting the background sky that was located inside the HDRI that I used to make that image. So I have basically an open area. So I'm thinking what I might do is grab one of his PNG files. Let's just pick a random one because we're just going to make something here to get going. Let's pick this one. This one is super detailed and colorful. And I'll drag and drop it into my Photoshop session. Size it a bit. Get it somewhere where it almost eats up the background of the frame. Apply it. In the layers menu, I move it behind the actual artwork, and now I have a cool background to a normal picture. And of course, we could add a sky in and other elements, but this would be a macro use of this. And again, your seasoning to taste. This is just the idea of how it starts off. I could grab a second one. I could take this second one. We're also going to do the same thing, expand it in size. Maybe I place it on top of the other one. Place it on front of the character. Play around with a little bit of transparency. And now we have something slightly different happening. So that's just me combining the two different ones together. They could be used in a big, gross sense like this to just form a background or a foreground on top of one of your renders. That would be one usage that you could do. Let's play with another one. This was an actual cover that never made it into my book series 4-6. So this was a scrapped cover idea. So that was what the final demo looked like. Let's see, this is the bonus art version, which was the character without all of the details on top. So what we could do is just grab another random set, and we'll try to find a bit more minimal use. So we want to find one that's a little bit less, and we're going to try to use this one in a much different way. So we're going to shrink this one down. We're going to shrink it down a whole bunch and basically disguise it in the scope. And again, we could zoom in and take our time doing this, but we're just showing you a gross example of just using it in a subtle way that might not really be noticed by anyone, that I snuck one in there. Then I could grab another one. Let's grab some other sort of swirly. This is another type of a swirly picture. This one doesn't really fit well, so we're going to struggle to figure out how we can force ourselves to use this one. We're just going to add some wild something to the forehead of his reflective helmet, and we'll lighten this one up and see what we get right above. We got a little bit of detail near the top part. I'm going to rasterize that layer so that I can edit it. We're going to shrink the size of our erase brush, and let's just clean up a little bit near the forehead. And now we have a cool little detail on the top of his helmet that wasn't there before. So there it is. There it's gone. Just a nice little bit. So it could be used in a very subtle way where your readership is almost not even aware that you're using that. And if I lighten that one up, it becomes barely there. So it doesn't have to be used in a heavy-handed way where it just takes over your entire art piece. They could be slid in very subtle and small ways. That is another way that that could be used. Let's find another random picture. What is this? Okay, well, this is pretty obvious. In the actual book, this piece has been removed from his suit. But in this particular example, we're going to grab a little bit of his reflective light and throw a cool one in there. So you get the idea of where this is going. You know, this looks pretty juicy. We'll leave it even at that size, semi-random. We'll grab one of the swirly ones from the same folder. Again, these are kind of random, kind of arbitrary. I'm just going in and grabbing the first ones that I see. But now we've got something cool happening with the chest. If we're going to go full-on artsy-fartsy mode, you might want to just keep going with it. We've got yet another one here. The same idea. If you want to bring it in a little bit, we might reduce it some so it's not super crazy. We could do a couple of cool things. Maybe I will take this one. Again, this isn't a class on post work. I'm just showing you how to actually use this product. Just the basics. It's up to you to add your own levels of creativity to it. But I'm going to duplicate this layer. So I have one that was muted and one that wasn't. So we're going to take the one that wasn't muted and turn it back up again. And so to explain, we have one here which is super bright the way it was, and then we have another one which is duller. So what we're going to do is take the bright one on top, and we're just going to clean it up a little bit around my character and remove the shine from it where my character is. And it gives the effect of just getting a little bit out the way of the character. And that's subtle and minor. So without the back one, that's what we get. So it's still not there. So this is almost, if I cut it too well, it will appear as though it's behind the character and not emanating from his chest, which is a cool effect you might want to do on your own. But I'm going to take that second one and just really lighten it so that the frame is still there, but just really reduced around the character, as if it's all emanating from this chest area. Now we have a cool image. And if we were going to keep going, let's make a new layer, because Diviney actually does have a ton of other products. So we can look at just finishing it off with some brushes. We'll just randomly grab his ripped fabric. That's not the one I should really be grabbing. So you're going to see me experiment and just hope for the best that I pull this up live, when I should have probably put some thought into it. But we'll see what we can make happen. This looks crazy. Alright, so we have some kind of ripped jean type effect. We're going to turn it into a brush. Let's grab some color from the actual brightest yellow that we have here. I made a new layer called Brush Particles. And we're going to just add some brush particles to my scene. And now we've got, you know, some cool energy happening around this. If you could see that, it just gave it some nice little bit of grungy action happening. And of course you could lessen the effect, season to taste. You guys know all of this stuff. Just enough to seem like there's some cool stuff happening. I might want to clean this up a bit, switch back to an actual eraser brush, and I grab an eraser brush. Maybe I just don't want it going that far past the character, and I don't want it to really take over the entire backdrop. I just want this area, and if it's only going to affect an area, maybe we can turn them back up and let it be grungy in this part. If I'm really concerned with my character's head area, I might lessen the head face. You know, if this hand pose was kind of cool, I'd use a smaller brush, but you guys get the idea. That we're just going to add some energy and particles to it. And there's a ton of brushes that he has that are used in this post-effect way, where you can use it to enhance your artwork. It's just fun. That's it. Play around with art. That's that picture. So you can see that the brushes can be stacked, layered, expanded in size, used minimally, used in a major way to be like, you know, the big effect in your artwork. What else do we have? I think you understand this. I don't think I need to even work on anymore. I think you have it. Let's do both a gross and a subtle. We're gonna grab a. This looks like a. You guys know. You see where this is going already. This is gonna be a gross usage. Do I really want to? Yeah, I will. I'm just gonna match the basic orientation a little bit of the drone type thing, whatever this is. So we're gonna give it a little bit of just a little bit of transform, just to get it to shape a little bit better. Then I'm gonna probably pretend that this is somehow integrated. So I'm gonna rasterize the layer so I can actually edit it. We're gonna go into the brush. This time I am gonna change my brush size. I don't want to clean up around the motor. I don't want this light, like this haze, really seeming like it's taking over fully the drone itself. It should be coming like from one of these rings or something. So I'll also lighten it so that it's just a light glow around it. I could do the same trick again. If I push this back further, you guys know this already, but if I push this back further, I can actually start to cut this side to make it appear as though it's behind the drone. If I cut all of this over here and trim this, it will seem as though this glow is behind the drone. That would be that effect. But with this, if I thought her glasses were boring, maybe the glasses aren't as interesting as they could be. Let's go into the second folder. So I was just grabbing from random folders. There's two. I'm just going to now switch to the other folder, only because we haven't really been in there much. All right, let's see what we've got. We've got some weird particle ones. We've got some groovy shapes here. Swirlies. This is interesting. So we have some other interesting shapes. Let's grab, this is really weird. Let's grab that one. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to grab that one. We're going to drag and drop it. And we're going to use this on her glasses. So this is actually going to be a little bit more realistic to what we would do. You know, you could be a little lazy with some of the cutting and just, you know, you can see how it almost already fits on its own. You know, without really putting too much work in. It already gave me something that was giving me suggestions already. You know, art does that. It rewards you when you just tinker. So we're going to play with this a little bit. Move it in. I'm gonna place it there. And again, we're doing this live, so it's gonna be a little sloppy. But if we be using a cutting tool, but I don't want to cut because that takes a bit longer, and we're live, so we're gonna just go with a straight eraser, which is not the preferred method to do this. Just letting you know this is not how I actually work. But for this today, we're just gonna cut around her glasses because you'll understand where we're going with this. So now it's his same circle, but I'm just gonna cut out around the glasses. And again, this is dirty, this is fast, but you know, I would obviously want to really trim this well and follow the lines carefully because all I really want are the lenses cut out. So you know how this works. I'm just gonna cut around the lens. There's a lot of different brushes I could have used to do this. Once I have my general area kind of cleaned up enough, let's see if we can get some selection tools in the area. See what we can fit in here and just grab. Oops, I see some residual flavor on her forehead. So we basically have a cool look now to her glasses. And again, this is the same sort of brush, and now we have a cool little effect on her glasses. We can play with this by duplicating it. It doubled in scope, but I could also do that. We can, just to make sure it doesn't look completely identical, I flip horizontal, which reverses them so that we don't quite get the exact same thing on each lens. And then when I place it back on top of itself, it kind of keeps some of the designs from the previous one. So I see some of the elements, and I can go in and clean it up again with a small brush. Small eraser. I can just go in and do a little bit of cleaning. And now they're not fully symmetrical, and you get some cool shapes happening on her glasses. So like I said, his products are rather versatile. It's really only limited by how much imagination you want to throw behind them. And you would never know that this was kind of a boring shot. In the actual comic, the character is speaking, so all this is filled in with text and talk. The same idea goes with particles. You can change the color of his brushes. That's the color of it. Let's duplicate it and experiment with some color stuff. We'll turn off one of them. Now we've got the flare brush here. We turn its opacity back up to 100% so I could see it. Let's play with image, adjust. What could we do? The channel mixer, is that the one that usually does it? I can't ever remember. There we go. We're playing with some channel mixing, so now we've changed the color of it. I hit OK, and now you can see the difference between that one and this one. And of course, the one that I adjusted should also be at the 40 something. So now you see that, you know, we have a cool extra look. That's not exactly the way it came out the box. You see the difference? We just made another one, play with the color. Now we have another little cool variation. Small details. If this was my comic and I was actually doing this for real, I would probably clean up the shoulder to make sure that it looks like if the beam is coming behind her, whatever that glowing halo is, to make it look like it's behind her shoulder. Small details like that leave it convincing. I might not like this little extra, you know, cool little detail over here, so I get rid of that. But now we have a nice looking light coming from this. You put a sound effect in here, it seems like something's swirling, or it could be the propeller turning. There's lots of things you could do in post to get this to sort of have whatever look you want or what it could be. You know, blur the fan blades. You know, sometimes you don't, show, don't tell. So I just kind of sometimes need to just show you what we're talking about. I'm gonna be lazy and just cut one. Layer new via copy. We made a new fan blade. So I have a fan blade here. We're gonna resize the fan blade to some size. We'll resize the fan blade. There. You can imagine if I made a bunch of these going around, and then if I filter the fan blade and blur it a bit with a motion blur, you get the effect that the blade is turning. So I could have added the fan blade effect in here, and now this swirl is more than some sort of light show. It's going to be something related to the fan blades. You know, we're not going to have her get chopped up. But, you know, again, this is just a quick rush idea of how you can play with his brushes and just add it to your artwork. There's a million uses from it. Let's start with something straight from scratch. We take a plain sheet Outer space is black, so I fill in the background with outer space. Let's start making some layers. We're gonna make a layer of space. I guess we're gonna call this stars. And we're gonna switch to white color for stars. And in Ron Deviny's brush pack, we're gonna go random with this. And I'm just gonna put like, I don't know, whatever that is, some random dots. Doesn't really matter. That's not really anything, but we're just gonna throw that in there anyway. Let's make 2 sets of stars. So I have another layer, and we're actually gonna go in to Deviny's, I should have practiced this so I know what it was called. Ron Space Brushes. Okay. So we have Ron Space Brushes. So we're looking at where his nebulae gas is. That looks kind of cool. We're going to go with a light blue color, or a bluish color, maybe a darkish blue color. We're going to add that in. And now we have some little star dust matter. Let's pick a different color because we're going to go super colorful for this one. We're going to go with another layer. We're going to call this Ron Space More. We're going to go with a Ron Space More with a little bit of yellow. That looks pretty cool. You can understand where this goes, where we just keep adding more and more until we get like one of those really colorful Hubble type space images. We'll start calling this green space so that I know I'm using green on this one. And now we get like a bunch of nice stuff. We can lighten it up a bit. Lighten it up because we don't want to overpower our scene with too much. You don't want to overpower it. The blue is heavy. Okay, so this is one way to sort of do that. We're going to bring in one of these as a space anomaly. So here we have is a space anomaly of some kind. We're going to rotate it a bit so it has a shape. Like I feel like I can see it moving. So now it has a shape. That might not stay. But now at least we have a bit of a background image to sort of play with. Something cool to happen. We're going to look at the product that, one of my products is 2D Planets Volume 1. So I made a bunch of 2D planets that you can drag and drop the same way. So that's one of the products that I have in the store. Griffin Avid is the vendor name. 2D Post-Work Asset Planets. When we dive into that, we get a bunch of folders to play with. So we have planet spectrum is color. So these are planets with colors. Space motion plates is cool background pictures of outer space. The surface of planets and also planets. So we're going to go with some planet plates. I'm going to open that up. And we're going to play around with, we'll go to the bonus and just see what we have in here as bonus material. I kind of like this Alpha Planet Red. Again, we do have planets in isolation, but we're going with random. So the first thing I grab is what we're going to go with. And I grab this folder. So that's what we're going to use. So I drag that in, and this is what I get. Now I drag that behind everything. And I now have a planet to lay in behind this anomaly. So, again, without it, that is the plain space that we had. This is my random planet brought in. If I lighten this up, you'll see more of the planet. That is the actual planet in isolation. So you can see this looks pretty cool. That we have the planet with the haze, the dust, everything going on. Now we're going to go with the actual circle flare. Put that back in at a high level, and now we have a very cool thing going on around this planet. Lighten it up some so that the space anomaly is something pretty cool. So this is another usage of it where it blends in with your image, plus we're using other brushes from Ron. Let's finish this up. I'm not sure how long this is going for, but let's finish this up. So back in my planets product, we also had some bonus ships that we rendered out. So that you could have a spaceship you could throw in your scene real quick. So we're going to grab one. We'll grab the second spaceship and we drag it in. Now we've got a spaceship flying towards the planet. And we have a cool spaceship in the scene. And we'll go back to Ron because obviously the retro rockets could have steam and vapors and things coming out. We could play with that. But we could also go back to his product and solve it with these circles. So again, these circles have such a multitude multifaceted uses. This one looks very cool with the particles. I like these two. So I drag and drop that one on top, and it has some very cool swirly swirls going on. So we're gonna bring that one in, and that seems like it does simulate the exhaust well of the ship. I am going to be lazy, so I'm gonna duplicate that layer, and I have two of them. So the second one I'm gonna grab, and to sort of just fool the eye so that it doesn't always seem like I'm using the same asset over and over again, I give it a little bit of a rotation and line it up. I'll even drag it out a bit. Let's drag it out a little bit, and that changes it. It's enough to fool the eye that you're not, you know, a viewer isn't going to suddenly think that you're using the same asset twice. And if I disguise it, I'm not going to clean up all these extra particles on top. Normally those could be cleaned up, but I'm going to leave them as they are. We have a cool spiral. I'm not so sure about the spiral, but he put it in here, and we're going to trust Ron that a cool spiral is a cool spiral. So we're going to trust Ron's artistic vision that he gave us a weird spiral of the ship breaking warp or something. That's a crazy looking piece, so we're going to throw that in there. Maybe lighten it up so my ship is breaking warp. Edit, layer, duplicate the layer. We're going to make a second copy of it. And the reason we're making a second copy, we're going to transform and flip it vertical. So it's a little bit different when I move it in there. And we're going to roll it a little bit. Let's roll it a little bit. And now I've got like a second band to whatever this is that my ship is pushing towards. And you saw we played with color before, so we can easily play with color. Let's put my new one behind the other one so it doesn't take over. And make that one barely there, so it's just like a residual. It's a residual effect. Like the first band is real, the second one is sort of barely there, like we're just coming out of warp. From post-work effects, I think we have the ship. We're gonna duplicate the ship twice, and I'm gonna rasterize the top layer. So I made a second copy of the ship. I'm going to filter motion blur the ship. So I motion blurred one of them. This is too much, but I'm not going to go backwards. We're live and we're running at full speed, so I'm not. What I'm going to do, though, is erase the parts I don't want to be so blurred of the ship. And that will give the effect that only certain parts of the ship are being affected. So instead of having like the whole ship super blasting, all I have now is the engine area. If you can see, the engine areas is where it's being affected by either the motion or the plasma stream is causing it to look as though it's in motion. Let's go with some particles. And again, we're going to go with just random particle. Actually, no, we're not going to stick with his same product. Let's go with our color picking tool, which is my color picker. And I'm just going to pick a blue from the exhaust port, whatever this engine housing is, and I'm gonna pick one. And I kind of want to go with, I don't want to switch brushes even. I just want to stick with Ron's brushes for now and just find something that gives me particles that I can manipulate. So I shrink them down. That might be too many. That's too big. We're gonna turn this into a bit of a struggle because I refuse to switch brushes. But whatever this is like a comet. This is some kind of comet that Ron has created in his space brushes. But like everything else in the universe, we can use it however we want. I take what is basically a comet, and I'm going to put it back over my jet exhaust because I don't want to grab anything else. And I have the streaking engine of my ship. You'll play with it, see where it looks natural. Where does it look like it really belongs? Then I layer, duplicate it. And I move another one over to this side. I try to match those perspective lines. Art 101 is the angle of this should kind of line up, that the jet should look like they're streaming. I'm going to eyeball it and just figure out that when it looks, you know, damn close, I'm going to call it good and not nitpick and spend my time staring at this and sleeping on it and all of that stuff. We're just gonna do that and get it done. The first one, is that the first one? This first one, I want to warp it. I'm gonna warp it a bit. And warping it is just gonna widen out the bottom. Like I kind of want the bottom to widen a bit. I want the bottom to widen and the top to narrow a bit. I'm just being nitpicky right now that I want this to sort of spread out. I want this kind of thing to spread out. The blast to spread out. And it spreads out. And now that it has a bit more of a triangle shape, I get a bit more effect of it coming from us. So I like this. I don't know if this is heavy-handed. This ring here might be heavy-handed. So we're gonna look for that. Go find that ring. Rasterize the layer. I just feel like it's a little heavy-handed, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit and get rid of it around my ship. Just a little bit of it, so that the ring leaves my ship a little bit more alone. I don't know if I'm happy with that. Go to my history of my actions and back it up. Back it up. And now the ring is back. And not as pronounced, covering this cool part of my ship. Alright, we're getting into the minutia. But alright, let's do one more thing. And again, we'll play with a light. I don't know what this is going to be, but we bring this in. I could stretch it. You don't know what this is going to be. And this is extra. So we're going to shrink it down. Shrink it down. I could cut it into lights. I could cut it into running lights. I don't think I will. I don't think I want running lights all over this ship or any flares or haze. I think we're going to stop there. I think we're going to stop there. And call ourselves just about done. I think we're going to call ourselves done. Fake rings around the planet. Not the worst. Not the worst. Probably wouldn't keep it, but not the worst. Plus, also, the color's probably going to be a problem where you're seeing all of this purple. Probably looks a little funky, and you're beginning to lose the planetary shape. So you probably got to make some decisions on where the planet goes compared to my ship. You probably got to make gross art decisions, like moving the ship back a bit further, moving the planet a bit away to have a bit better use of the space instead of one crawling on top of the other. But that's all artistic stuff that you spend time worrying about once you get along. But you do get the idea of using his brushes in a minimal sense to add enhancements to your artwork and how they could be used in a minimal way, and also to be the anchor. And that's about it. Ron Divine. This is brand new in the Daz store. Ron's Circle Flares is what it is. Again, you're checking the bottom when they're brushes. It will say brushes, and I did a video on how to use his brushes and use brushes, period, and post-work effects. I did a class on that, available in the Daz store. Also in the Daz store is a course called Comic Creation that I authored for Digital Art Live. It's all about making comics using the 3D Daz asset, and also the general understanding of how to make comic books, telling a story. It does break down planning, creating issues, action, arcs. So it's very comprehensive. There's a part 1, there's a part 2 to the course. It covers everything from software on how to do the word balloons, special effects. It goes over some of the traditions in the comic format, certain conventions you would want to say. Then there is the SciTech overlays and brushes. This is the product I mentioned that I did with Ron Divine. We combined our talents for this product. It is both 3D holographic items in Daz, and it is also 2D assets, which is the brushes that you saw manipulate in Photoshop with that little quick run through. Fight scenes, creating fight scenes, explaining choreography, some of the hidden gems in creating a fight and what's really important when you put together a fight, and how the action flows and how to create meaningful moments, camera angles. It covers a lot. 2D Planets is the product that you saw me pull some assets from, the bonus renders of the ships in space, so you can get going quickly. That was a product that we tapped today. There is a 3D Planets, which is three-dimensional planets, that I create as a product in the Daz store if you want a whole 3D planet. That would be this product. This is about post work. So one of these is correcting small errors, poke through, lighting, just fixing some of the tough problems you might encounter, things you didn't catch before the render, and now that you spent all that time rendering your image, you don't want to go back and have to re-render it, so you want to repair it as best you can in post. Same thing, creating special effects, some done inside of DAZ Studio. We cover that. We also cover creating effects outside of DAZ Studio and many software options that are available to add special effects to your artwork. How to pull off some of these, faking some effects that you might not have thought to add in your actual render. How to add them after. Very cool. Post work, fixing errors, fixing little details, adding things in a seamless fashion where you're not exactly sure what's 3D, what's 2D, what's been added and how. Enhancers. Compelling covers. This really explains how to take the DAZ 3D engine and apply it to some other mediums. So it's not just making comic book covers, it's basically making novel covers. We get behind some of the science of making book covers, how to create a render that does have that compelling artistic feel, and we tap into some of the things that fit the fantasy mold on making covers. Kit bashing, taking different pieces, parts, and adding them together to create something unique and different. Able to get more mileage from your props by kit bashing, taking bits of kits and bashing them together to create something different, whether it be just cool action moments or creating entire scenes, creating locations. We even build some spaceships, that's coming up. Landscapes and structures, how to make buildings. We also cover some very cool other software outside of DAZ. Most of it is actually free, that lets you create your own 3D shapes, bring them into DAZ, and create structures. So this was very comprehensive, this course on building your own buildings. This was very cool, creating your own items from scratch. This was kit bashing. This was really about building spaceships and where we can get raw parts. We also have software that generates random spaceships that you could also bring into DAZ to create your own unique spaceship. We covered that in this course. Visual story writing, breaking down the storytelling, the elements, how to build a story, how to build towards a climax. So this was a very comprehensive course about that. Things are done to characters, characters do things. We break all of that down. That was a good one. Also, I have a compatriot, Peter von Steckelberg, who also is a teacher for Digital Art Live. Very accomplished, super knowledgeable. He also has a series of courses in the DAZ Studio store under Digital Art Live. And this breaks down storytelling visually. He has a lot of scientific information about it. Very deep on creating, deep analysis from a very, very high educational level. This is very excellent to learn from. You can't go wrong. Really, really breaking down the visual narrative. These are all very good classes. Tassos, the accomplished comic creator of Time Traveler, actually blessed the store with one of his post-work workshops. So you get to see some of his technique of what he does and how he takes a DAZ render and turns it into something wholly different. This is another good course. This one is very nice. I was there for that one live. This is Lynn Welly, who has her own title, which is out, and rather popular 3D comic book that she's been working on for a while. And she also has her own style, and she breaks down some stylistic elements and how she creates her work. So we have another artist sharing some secret tips and ideas on art. Look at that. So this is another talented artist who have lent their talents to visual storytelling. So there are books out. There's a lot of resources out. I should say courses out. If you didn't know, Digital Art Live is both a magazine, it's also a workshop system where a lot of us artists get together and we share our work and get feedback, and we share it in real time. We talk among each other and go over art. A lot of our goals, we go over resources, we share, we critique, And we have live workshops. They are free. We also have paid courses that you can take. It does become a live course. You can tune in using the web interface, and then from there it also can become a product in the Daz store that you can actually purchase the live webinar and get it in HD. So those are the source of a lot of classes. This would be digitalartlive.com is the site, and you can find the source of a lot of these webinars start here and then end in the Daz store. So that's been it. I thank you very much for watching this and supporting all of our products. Congratulations again to Ron Deviney. Great release. Thank you.